It is once again time. Shout out to, I think it was Salvador Rodriguez that reminded me, man, I have a fucking catchphrase. I'm a character. I'm a person, you know? I'm a human being. No, I'm just playing, guys. That was, I guess, a segue. I don't know. I'm not a professional podcaster, but anyway, this video is kind of a follow-up, or I guess an introduction. As I've mentioned to you guys previously, as of late, I've wanted to do more UFC videos, so I've gotten into that a lot more over the past year, and I've really fallen out of the loop with wrestling, so I kind of wanted to intertwine the two and kind of make it a little more relatable to our fans, to at least make it make sense. And I will preface it by starting to say this, guys. If you're a fan of the type of wrestling that I advocate for, and you like watching guys fight in a cage, and you don't mind the occasional nut hug fest, which that's bound to happen because there's guys that are wrestlers, and you kind of have to, I guess, adjust to the transition game and kind of get into that. But my point is, if you like the type of wrestling that I endorse, that I've been dying and begging the WWE to get back to over the past, I don't know, how many fucking years have I been saying this? I really went over the top in 2016, so let's say 5 years. I would recommend that you give the UFC a shot. The reason I say that is because of the title. It's plain and simple. The UFC has way better characters than the WWE does. And I will start off by saying this. I understand these are not characters. These are real life guys. These are actual people. The UFC is like they used to call it, like they used to say to themselves, it's as real as it gets, when they used to try to get WWE type ratings. So they did that to take a slight at them. And now the fucking tables have turned, how times have changed, huh? The reason I say that the UFC has better characters is because we all know, hardcore MMA fans especially, because this makes them sick to their fucking stomach. And they actually have a lot of similarities to Smarks, but I'll get into that in just a second. The UFC has adopted the moniker that the WWE used to do, where, and you'll hear any producer, any wrestler that ever made it, that was ever anything in wrestling, say this, that the best characters that you see on TV, i.e. Booker T, i.e. Hulk Hogan, i.e. John Cena, i.e. The Rock, i.e. Stone Cold, i.e. I don't know how much of The Undertaker is actually a dead man. But the main point is, any good character that you've ever seen on a wrestling show is just that guy amplified to 11. And ever since the UFC has started to tap into that, and I'll start with Conor McGregor. Once they saw that how fucking much Conor McGregor blew up, they really adopted the moniker. And I've never heard them say it out loud. I've never heard Dana White endorse it, but you obviously fucking know that he loves this shit because of how much he loves Conor McGregor and how much money he makes him. That's exactly what he wants all his fighters to do. That's why you see guys like Jorge Masvidal cutting in line to get a title shot. Because these are the type of characters, these are the type of guys that will sell a fight. They sell the pay-per-view before it happens. So when you get to the pay-per-view, and the main difference, this is where the difference between smarks and hardcore MMA fans that wear 2006 tap-out shirts anywhere they go, this is where the difference lies. Since the UFC is an actual sport, it makes perfect logical sense that you would strictly watch it for the art of fighting, for the art of the combat sport. Versus professional wrestling, where smarks just want it to be a flippity flop flop acrobat shit. But the thing that they have in common is they hate these over-the-top characters and wish that they could do away with it. And wish that they would just get back to what has them there. But the thing that they don't understand is the myopic point of view that they have is the UFC, yeah, it was getting bigger and bigger and bigger little by little, from the 95 days to the Fertitta Brothers days to, let's call it, the Chuck Liddell era, right up until we got to the Brock Lesnar point. Does anyone wonder? Does anyone question? Does anyone ask why Brock Lesnar is one of the biggest draws in UFC history, despite the fact that, if we're going to be honest, he's nothing special as a fighter. Does anyone ask why Brock Lesnar went 3 fights or 4 fights in and then got a UFC heavyweight championship fight against 90-year-old Randy Couture that trained Daniel Bryan, by the way, but Smarks wants you to believe that Daniel Bryan has a shot against Brock Lesnar. Meanwhile, Brock Lesnar beat the fuck out of his trainer. Yeah, sure, why not? Besides the point, the biggest draws in UFC history, Conor McGregor, the biggest draw in UFC history, Conor McGregor. Yeah, his fighting is exceptional, but the reason that his fighting is as popular as it is because of the trash talk that comes leading up to it that makes that fight just that much more exciting. And that's what the WWE is lacking so sorely. And I'm not saying that the WWE should do this. They shouldn't let the chains off of some of their wrestlers, because you could clearly tell through the TV these guys belong nowhere near in front of a fucking camera. They don't belong anywhere. They belong behind the counter at a fucking Family Dollar. They belong outside of a 7-Eleven asking you for spare change so they can go gamble. My point is, what the UFC is doing is beautiful, and it's exactly what the WWE should be doing. The UFC perfectly encaptures that feeling. And this is me speaking personally. I don't want to speak for anybody else on this that watches both. But I think you'll understand what I mean, is that they encapture that feeling that the WWE used to give you. The excitement, the unpredictability, the over-the-top characters, the great booking. There's no fights, aside from Ngannou and John Jones right now, that the UFC hasn't given you that you're thinking, oh man, they really should have made that fight when they had the chance. No, they always make the correct fight. Regardless of how you want to look at it, the fight always makes sense. Save for Usman versus Burns last year, but I really don't like Burns, and I wanted Masvidal to get that shot because I'm a Masvidal fan. Colby Covington is another example. Like, this dude, I'm sure he's a Trump supporter. I'm sure he's a MAGA guy. He took that, and you'll see that when he's himself, and he's literally told a little kid this. I've seen a clip where he signs a title for a little kid, not a little kid, maybe a 12-year-old kid, and he says, and the kid asks him, he's like, well, why do you act like that? He's like, why don't you just stick to fighting? You're such a good fighter. And Colby Covington says, well, that doesn't sell. And that's what wrestlers need to understand. A fighter who's actually fighting for real is telling a kid that, yeah, I might be one of the best in the world at a real combat sport, but guess what? That's not paying my bills. What's paying my bills is creating a persona to get casual viewers to come in and try to watch me get knocked out. You can hate it all you want. You can call it fake. You can call it whatever you want to call it. At the end of the day, it's who they are. They're amplifying it to an extent to appeal to more people. And that's what the WWE has lost sight of. They're just guys. They're just wrestlers who talk about wrestling. This is the equivalent. Let's say you have an electrician at your house, right? And he gets electrocuted. Obviously you fucking care. The human being in you wants to see him survive. But the best way I can describe it is this. Is if you know that this guy is a single father trying to support his 3 kids because he told you that before he started telling you about what he's going to do as the electrician to try and fix your electricity, it's different than a guy that just tells you about that, doesn't tell you anything about his life, and then he gets electrocuted. It hits you a different way. That's the point that I'm trying to make. And that's where WWE has completely lost its way. And I don't know, and then I don't believe it's just because they script too much. I just believe that their creativity is just down the tube, and they just completely lost sight of how to create characters and how to just let people be themselves. Which I'm not saying that they should let all the wrestlers they have now be themselves, because we've seen that they're pretty charismaless. They don't do anything with what they've got, save for like a handful of guys that I can probably name off the top of my. I'm not going to try to do it, but there's guys on the roster that can do that. But that's the main point that I was trying to make is and that's why I tell you guys, if you guys are fans of what I've tried to sell you on in terms of what wrestling should be, and I know a lot of you are, because I see a lot of you guys in agreement. Yeah, there's guys that disagree. That's perfectly fine. You don't have to watch anything. You keep watching AEW, watch Kenny Omega and CM Punk kill each other for the next 5 years. That's perfectly fine. But if I'm going to talk to the guys that watch wrestling for the unpredictability, for the overtop characters, for the stories, I say give UFC a shot. And if you're going to give the UFC a shot based on my word, I would say try out the Usman versus Covington 2 fight that's coming up. And go watch the Usman versus Covington build up to the first fight, then watch the actual fight. If you're a fan of combat sports, shit, even if you're not, they don't do any wrestling in, like, real wrestling in that fight. All they do is swing at each other for 5 fucking rounds. And it's nonstop action. It's lit. And it's 2 guys that are known for their wrestling. That's the beauty of the UFC. That's the unpredictability of it. Is that these guys are just known as wrestlers. They stood up, swung leather for 5 rounds, and it was one of the best fights I've ever seen. But it also has to do with the fact that so many people went into that fight wanting Colby Covington to get knocked out. It also has to do with the fact that Usman, who at that point in time, at least for me, I didn't hate him as much as I hate him now. And I don't hate him because he's not talented. He obviously is. He's just fucking cringe. He's so fucking cringe. You'll get that with the UFC too. You won't just get guys that you like. It's not just a bunch of guys that you're going to like. You're going to get guys that you know are trying too hard. That you know that's not them. You could see through the bullshit. That's the main difference. And I think that's what the hardcore fans are. I think that's what the hardcore MMA fans don't see as clearly. Is they don't see, I can see right through that bullshit. Like, that's not who you are. But this guy, he's just a fighter, you know. He's just trying to fight. That's fun, and I'm watching it just solely for the fights. But that's what I think they have trouble visualizing and differentiating is the difference between the guys that are who they are, turned up to 11, versus the guys that are just completely faking it, like I believe Usman is. But that's another rant for another time. Anyway, guys, probably get into the CM Punk Daniel Bryan thing tomorrow. Let me know if you guys have any requests or anything like that. Honestly, I'm not having too much fun watching the wrestling. I don't want to do reviews. That's not fun. If you guys have any suggestions, the Rosa Mendez video is coming up. Ryan Ludwig, don't worry about it. Anyway, yeah. Then if you guys want the UFC content to continue, just let me know. That's it. Yada yada yada. Blah blah blah. Good and bye.